Everyone has a slightly different arm path. Everyone hands separate slightly different to start their hand path. But ultimately, everyone is getting to very similar checkpoints in their arm path along the way. And that first checkpoint that we're going to want to look at is the moment that our front foot gets into the ground at foot strike. So we got 4 guys here that all have drastically different arm paths, are drastically different statures. We got starters, we got closers. We got guys who have had Tommy John. We've got guys who have not had Tommy John. All different sorts of things here in the mix. And what we're going to notice is as these guys flow through their delivery, that the body needs to flow with the arm. And once our front foot gets down into the ground, it's time for the upper body to begin its throw, which means our arm needs to be loaded up and ready to throw when the front foot gets into the ground. And what a throwing or a ready throwing position looks like for the arm at the moment of our front foot getting into the ground is this 90 degree angles that we see in our elbow and our armpit. So we look at Class A and we can see that 90 degree bend in the elbow and 90 degree bend at the armpit. And then same thing with Garrett Cole and with Dylan Cease. We can see some guys have that 90-90 of the arm loaded further back into their scapula, their shoulder blade, so the righty's back towards first base, where others are more straight in line with their body at this point in time. But we can see everybody's shoulders coming through are right at the target, and that throwing arm is still loaded up. It has not begun to rotate through because front foot gets in the ground, then it's time to throw. So seeing this good 90-90 with our head looking over our shoulders tells us at this moment at which it's about to become time to throw, our arm is in a position to throw. Now, we may have noticed as we were going really slow through there that first time that each of these guys have drastically different arm paths to get to the same or very, very similar position here. If we look and focus just on Ben Joyce here in the top left, we will notice that his arm very quickly goes from falling out of the glove to kind of going back towards his back foot, and now he's beginning to load it up. Okay, and now it's loaded up and ready to go in the 90-90. So if we do that again, we can see it's falling out of the glove and coming up, loading up, staying loaded up, because now it's time to throw. Guys that have this type of arm path here, where they get in trouble is at the moment of foot strike, they're not in this 90 degree bend here. The hand has continued to get closer and closer to the head, and now their arm is here. So guys that have this arm coming out early and the hand kind of almost working like an hour hand on a clock. So there's like 7 o'clock, here comes 8 o'clock, then we're at 9 o'clock, up to 10, now we're at 11, and then we got to make sure when it comes time to throw that we're at this 12. A lot of times, especially with young kids who have this bigger, longer, loopier arm path, By the time they get the foot strike here, they're at 1:30, maybe even 2 o'clock. So then when they go to throw, that arm's got to flip back out of that, and then that's when you start to get that arm to cast out and around. So we can see that Joyce, obviously being an elite thrower of the baseball, has been able to get this arm to stay at that point in time. So then when we proceed out of foot strike, we can see it's the shoulders rotating forward that's laying his arm into max external rotation at the point in time where the shoulders are lined up with the target. And the only way we can get this great synchronization of the arm laying back at the moment of that chest getting to in line with the target is if it starts from this position here at foot strike. So we got a longer arm slot over here, and we'll go to a shorter arm slot over here with Dylan Cease. So we'll take that back and we'll watch Dylan take that ball out, boom, to the knee. So it's not going back. Oops, it's not going back like Joyce was as early. Now it's kind of just holding right here. And it's coming up, up, up to get to its 90-90. And so, boom. Right? So where I see guys who have this form of a very compact arm path, where I see guys that get in trouble with it, is they don't allow this. They don't allow for that initial hang and let me just gain some ground with my body down the mound before I load it back up in this tight window, right? We can have a short, compact arm, but we can't have a short, compact, fast-developing arm. Because it doesn't take up a lot of distance, we're not taking up a lot of time. And this delivery takes time to develop in order to get here. So if we're short and compact and we're fast to get this elbow to bring this arm up, we're going to be struggling to not want to fire that back shoulder early because the hand got up and wanting to go, 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 go quick and early. So for guys that have compact arms, compact arm paths, we need to think about a Dylan Cease. Just we still have that bend in that elbow of whatever flexion you want it to be in, but we just kind of dead man hang it there. Just dead man hang it there for as long as you possibly can, and then once you can't dead man hang it, let it develop. So we got the short and the long. So if we kind of just do a little tracer to kind of compare those for us. Oops, that doesn't look good. Boom. Boom. To the 90-90 right there. So we got something kind of like that. And then we got Dylan Cease. Right there. So you can kind of visually see those two paths being just a little different from one another. But they both have very similar themes. But the ball's got to fall out of the glove first. And then it's coming up into that 90-90 by the time we get the foot strike. So now we can go down and look at a guy like Garrett Cole. And just because we got those two markers up there, we'll start his as well. So there's that ball falling out of the glove, falling down that dead man hang. His hang is just a little bit more of a straighter elbow bend, and then bringing that up into his 90-90. So if we just kind of look at the overall path, it's similar, more similar to Ben Joyce's than Dylan Cease's, but we can see this little arm stroke or this little swoop of the arm is a lot more compact for Dylan Cease than it is for Ben Joyce. All right, and then we can draw some parallels between all three of them in a manual Class A. And that is the length or the straightness of the arm that Ben Joyce has. Emmanuel Class A has it as well, but instead of it going back towards second base like Joyce does, Class A lets his dead hang straight on down behind his back knee there. Right, it's going straight on down back there. And then it's loading back into his back like Dylan Cease does. But Emmanuel Class A loads it into his back with a straighter arm and then loads that elbow up as he gets there. Where Dylan Cease is coming at that from more of a compact arm position, a little bit more of an elbow bend to begin with. But it's very similar in that regard. Right? So we can see how there's like that check mark like movement in Class A and Dylan Cease versus the like I don't even know what kind of shape you would call this, like a candy cane, I guess, kind of, that Garrett Cole and Ben Joyce have. So you can see there's different arm paths, but everyone's getting to this 90-90 at the moment of foot strike. And one of the biggest things that we can see is that these paths, and if I get this out of the way so you can see that pitching rubber a little better again, their paths are very close to either the back knee, like Cease and Class A, or they're going back towards that back foot, like Cole and Joyce. But everyone is getting that arm loaded up, not just up to 90-90, but getting it loaded into their back muscles, getting it loaded up behind their head so that way it can rotate in front of the head. And what we know is all these guys, when they get their chest all the way to the target, is that the point at which they are at their most externally rotated back, externally rotated back, externally rotated back. We got to go back a little bit further for Cease. Right there, externally rotated back. And then the chest continues to go to continue to bring that arm all the way through. So we play that one more time. We'll see the arms flow into that 90-90 and then flowing out of the 90-90. And now that you guys have had the time to learn and watch the different varieties of the arm paths and have gotten more understanding of what to be looking for, we'll let you guys see your videos again. And at the end, the guys that need some additional work with their arm paths will have their own little quad box discussion. All right, now that you guys have had the time to watch that video about arm paths and get to see that quad box of different styles of arm paths and see the checkpoints along the way, maybe you noticed in your video that you needed to have a little cleaner or a different arm path to get to that 90-90 position at foot strike. So you four guys here will have the opportunity now to watch again your arm's path out of your glove to the moment that we get to foot strike. All right, so we're going to start with our left two videos over here, and I apologize, I don't remember our names. I believe it's McConnell. I think it's right here, something like that. Yeah, but down here, sorry, but I don't remember your name off the top of my head. You two guys have very short, compact arms, okay? So we were thinking about the Dylan Cease example then, and how we talked about even if that elbow is going to be compact and tight, we kind of need it to get down towards this knee a little bit more, right? And we can see that this thing is just staying chest high the whole time on you. And because of that, it gets up early, and because it's up early, now this ball is really close to your head. Also, because the ball didn't go down at all, your elbow flexion never increased. So that way, when you brought it up, it's already in this small angle. But if this ball could fall down some more, and we could lengthen out this extension of your elbow, even if it just got to 90 degrees, that'd be okay. But we can see that the bend that you have in your elbow the entire time, if this is 90, you're at like 70, 75, 65, somewhere in there. So we got to make sure when this ball falls out of your glove, we allow the elbow to get into at least a 90, if not a little bit more of a bend or an extension, so that way as it loads up and wants to get tighter, we have room for it to be tighter. Instead of it right now being maybe right here we're at 90 degrees, but then as you load it up, it gets tighter. So now that we're at 70 or whatever that is, when that's 90. And same thing down here, right? We talked about with that Dylan Cease, that like dead man hang. You do a good job of that dead man hang. But what we're going to notice is when you come up, same thing. You're coming up into slightly less than 90-90. And I just worry that that's going to add a little bit of unnecessary stress to your elbow. Because like we talked about, if we get up into here, now that arm is going to have to come out of that angle as we're rotating around, and that's a lot of tension put on that elbow. Even though your upper body does a good job of going forward, so it may not be the biggest issue, but just something for you to think about is allowing this to get to here instead of staying here the whole time. Because again, if we can get that over to here, that extension would be a little bit more in that elbow. And with a little bit more extension in the elbow, when we go to really yank it up, power it up, we won't get into such a tight potential angle. So with the two guys that have less than 90 degree angle, we'll hop over here. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is Quentin, which is a really cool name. We can see Quentin is getting into a larger than 90-90. If anything, he's closer, or he's like in between 90 and 180. So like the 130, 140 range. So now we got to work backwards and figure out why this is. So if we look, this right here is very Emmanuel Class A that we saw, right? Manual Class A, loading it back there. But then what did we see after that? That elbow started to load up, right? The arm stopped being straight and began to bend. And your arm just stays straight, 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 straight. And because it's straight, 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 as we go to load it up, it's going to want to stay more straight, 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 straight. So we can have this straightness here, 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 here. But at around this point in time, we got to stop thinking about the hand going towards first. And we got to start thinking about like the elbow coming up. Because if the elbow starts to come up, the hand's going to also start to come up. And right now, your hand just keeps going back, 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 back. And now it's so far away from your head that when you come up, it's also going to be so far away from your head. And that's really what's going to dictate this angle here in the elbow. So a good guy to look at would be that Emmanuel Class A. You go back and revisit the beginning of the video and watch the Class A part specifically. That's going to help you visualize that adjustment there. And then we go down over here to a more complex thing going on, right? We got that ball falling out of your glove nice, like we saw those guys. We see the elbows loading that arm up really good. And then for whatever reason, the hand doesn't want to go up with the elbow staying here. For whatever reason, the hand doesn't want to load up. Instead, the hand almost wants to stay here. And in order to get that hand above the elbow, your elbow drops down. Right? So the ball was here. And then at foot strike, it's here. So it doesn't go up all that much. And if we look at the top of this line that we drew, that's where your elbow is. And then at foot strike, here's your elbow. So what moved more, your hand moving up or your elbow going down? Clearly we can see it's the elbow going down. And that's what we got to train your body, is how to get this hand to go up, 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 up. It's going up, 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 up. And we got to keep learning how to get it to go up as the elbow wants to hold there, rather than it elbows going down. The front elbow is going to do that, but we don't want the back elbow to be doing that, because now this arm is going to have to drag and push forward, and that puts tremendous stress on the front of our shoulder. There'll be some in the elbow, but it's going to be a lot more in the shoulder when this arm is dragging through like this. So we'll play this again for you guys to be able to see that arm path flowing again and how it gets into that foot strike one last time. And then we'll show the big leaguers one last time.